My name is Phil Timms. I am an account executive for Advizex and the ServiceNow liaison for the Ohio Valley region. Again, want to thank you for joining today's webinar. And for our customers on the line today, we really appreciate your business. In today's demo, we'll focus on the IT operations space and leveraging the investments you guys have already made to get a proactive view into your environment. With us today is Marcus Harkness, a ServiceNow solution consultant, and Ricardo, who is our ITOM SC specialist, and Ricardo will be leading the meeting. The chat window will be open throughout the demo, so if you have questions, feel free to post them on the chat window and we'll address them as they come across. We expect the demo to be roughly 35-45 minutes with some time afterwards for questions. But again, the chat window will be open. If you see something along the way during the demo that you want us to take a deeper dive into, feel free to post the message or the question in the chat window and we'll address it. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Ricardo and let's get going.
Yes, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Again, thank you for everyone for joining today. My name is Ricardo Centeno. I am the ITOM solution consultant based out of Michigan. I've been with ServiceNow probably just over 3 years now. I've been in the IT operations space for well over 20 years, coming and diving into a lot of different technologies in the industry. So this topic is really near and dear to my heart. So again, appreciate everybody's time. So what I'm going to do is I want to spend a couple moments talking, going through a couple different slides around how we are positioning our ITOM technologies today within your ServiceNow instances. One of the things that really, since ServiceNow's inception is, or from the ITOM side, is understanding that ITOM really is a fundamental technology for our ServiceNow environment. I mean, why do I say that? I mean, ServiceNow has been around and it started out from the ITSM world. And you're absolutely correct. It is definitely incident problem change view. And that really is our bread and butter. But when ITOM was brought in, we started wrapping a lot of technologies around it, including the software asset management, as well as asset management and HR and so forth and so on. So just populating our Cmdb is going to be the key focus here. So we want to correctly and have that one data model that powers all of the individual services within our platform. So ITOM really provides and maintains a near real-time visibility into what we currently have, whether that will be bringing in data sources, whether that will be doing the discovery within and populating our Cmdb with CIs and so forth and so on. But that really drives additional value for the other technologies. As I mentioned before, software asset management, ITSM, any security type of capabilities, whether that will bring in Splunk data and information, but including information and data around maybe resources, as well as projects that are being brought out within ITBM, customer service management, as well as HR and the various other technologies that we currently have. So this is one of the things that, was one of our discussion topics we had in 2018, eliminate service outages. Some of you folks may have heard some of this around, hey, we want to try to minimize the amount of visibility of negative visibility in the industry today for our business. We lost X amount of dollars because some sort of web server or a web server farm went down, data center hacks, and so forth and so on. And so the likelihood of our environment being with front page and front center within the market is huge. But being able to provide the information today within the ITOM space, I think just really helps solidify and make sure that we try to eliminate ourselves from that visibility. So from delivering within the operations space, as well as delivering high performance business services with visibility, one of the things is making sure that we understand what we currently have. All right, populating our Cmdb is going to be key across those various different types of environments. As you know, 15, 20 years ago, it really was focused around, client server type technologies. We were just touching and scratching the whole VM world type of view. And so now with the cloud and with on-prem and private and public and so forth, as well as SaaS services and IaaS services and so forth, we want to be able to bring in and understand what we currently have. With that, on top of that, you have services that comprise that environment. Obviously, systems aren't just sitting there doing nothing. There is software that is enabling these systems to do things, to create tasks, and so forth and so on. So we want to understand how our business services are performing from all these other technologies that we currently have. But at the same time, optimization is always going to be key as well, whether that will be cloud spend, whether that be cloud resource constraints, software spend, and so forth. So we want to understand how can we optimize our environment today, not only for cost savings, but also efficiencies within our environment. So from a visibility standpoint, obviously, this, as we talked about earlier, you have your foundation, and our foundation within ServiceNow platform is that Cmdb. Cmdb that comprises on-prem type technologies, VM, AWS, Azure, and so forth, but everything else that resides on top of that. That would include your software licensing. We want to make sure we stay compliant. Event sources, whether that would be performance data and information, Splunk data and information, data sources, as well as various other stacks that are in place today. So we utilize that information and utilize all the relationships and dependencies that have been built within the Cmdb to provide maps, application service maps, business service maps, and so forth that have those relationships to the sources that we are bringing in today. Understanding if something or some sort of degradation is happening within our environment, not only how is it impacting the CI within our environment, but more important, what type of machine learning do we have that? Has it happened before? What incidents have been created? Has there been any changes? Has there been any problem tickets associated with it? Is there knowledge base behind it and so forth? So these are just some of the key initiatives that obviously we utilize ServiceNow today for. So let's bring all that information together since that data is already there. With that, some of the outcomes that we provide is we want to make sure we maintain compliances for all this data and information, making our own level 1, level 2 operators more efficient with this data, providing those map infrastructure environments, application maps, and so forth that shows impact or degradation, and then have that visibility into understanding, is this map really up to date? A lot of customers today utilize those Visio diagrams, use spreadsheets and so forth to try to stay up to date with what's changing within their environment. Let's utilize some of our discovery capability as well as API integrations to make sure that we have an up-to-date view. So what is AI Ops? AI Ops is an artificial intelligence for our operations. One of the biggest wheels that you do see here is our operation functions. It is spinning on an ongoing basis, and it's never going to stop. So let's provide that in momentum of our operations and bring in the data and analytics. Let's understand and analyze the information utilizing machine learning to make our environment far more smarter in what we do today, smarter from an incident perspective, smarter from a problem and change perspective, smarter from an asset management perspective, and then get up to speed quicker and providing a better service back to the business as well as back to our customers. All right. So, with that, we utilize the technologies that are out there today. A lot of customers ask me, well, we've already acquired so-and-so technology and so-and-so technology for our monitoring, for our discovery, and so forth. You've made investments, obviously. So let's utilize those investments that have already been made, bring in that technology within our environment and populate our Cmdb. Utilizing event correlation capability, utilizing machine learning, our artificial intelligence to help provide service health dashboards so that we can better make decisions on what's going on today. Helping reduce this P1, P2 type of incidents, especially the noise, prioritize on specific alerts. This is going to be key. Obviously, we have major alerts, we have critical alerts, but if we can prioritize to say these major alerts need to be worked on first, then so be it. insights on what has happened within this problem specifically. Has it happened before? What do we need to do? Is there a knowledge base associated with it? So we develop a new, what we call Agent Workspace, to help us provide that type of content very quickly and very easily, allowing us to collaborate with those business and key stakeholders for your application. Automate remediations very quickly and help resolve specific degradations, on an ongoing basis, more from an automated remediation perspective, but still giving you the power to do that type of remediations from a manual perspective. All right. So just quick, some customer successes that we've currently had. Obviously, these are some of the big guys, where you have the 80% reduction in just outages alone. Outages can be just as simple as, hey, a service went down and we want to get back up and running. Obviously, for larger environments, if something does go down, that results in a lot of cost and a lot of dollars that are lost. So, we're covering the entire gamut of, hey, data centers down, cloud environments down, to a simple services down. Reduction in noise is going to be huge, because most environments have your view of what an event is and a list of thousands of events that they receive in a day. And so can we reduce that noise, help eliminate and help prioritize those events, and create alerts that are actionable, as well as events that can be remediated very quickly. And then as well as reducing the time to provision environments. This is one of the key components within our world. Sometimes it takes an act of God, honestly, to get a couple servers up and running, a database spun up, and so forth. So let's reduce the 7 days to 10 minutes. So any questions until I get my demo up and running? All right, I'm going to move forward. Let me know when you can see my screen.
We see it okay, thank you.
All right, fantastic. So what we're seeing here is what we call our event management dashboard. All right, as time progresses, I am starting to initiate specific events and alerts that are coming in on an ongoing basis. This view here is really focused around our event, or our application services that are critical to me. All right, some of you folks may have seen this presentation before, but I'm actually going to a couple different directions to help us understand who is entitled to view specific things and what type of information we are going to see to help us understand what's going on. So this view here, as I mentioned, is based on application services. The size of the boxes indicate the importance that it is to me. The larger the box, obviously it's more important to the business and to myself. I can take a look at it from a business criticality perspective, which is what we see today, as well as from a severity, as well as from a cost perspective. Now, a lot of these services are manual services, and some of them are automated services created from our service mapping technologies. And so as events do come in, they are impacting a specific CI. These CIs have relationships and dependencies to other components within these services, whether that will be another web server, a server cluster, a server farm, maybe another service in the back end, or what have you. But more importantly, how is it being impacted? And as you can see here, we have alerts that are coming in now. Alerts that are coming in from various different sources. As you can see here, we have some Nagios events coming in, some SCOM events, some SolarWinds, some third parties, and so forth, but also that type of impact that it may be having on a specific configuration item that we have within our Cmdb. So just giving us a wealth of information just on how and what we need to work on first. But we want to create more governance behind this. We want to make sure this is just not some sort of level 1 operator view where, hey, this is what's going on, but more importantly, let's provide additional logic behind it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in and I'm going to open up what we call our Agent Workspace. Our Agent Workspace is new within our London and Madrid releases, and I guess a little shameless plug-in, Madrid just got released last week. So this is something that we are driving for to help us understand, the actual machine learning and AI behind operations. So within this view, we have an alert. An alert is focused around our CPU percentage outage. Obviously, it's something simple, something that exceeded some sort of threshold, but we want to understand what can we do with this. It shows us details behind the alert specifically. The alert can be, hey, we are affecting a specific configuration item, as well as what class is it affecting. It's affecting this particular Windows Server class, as well as one of our CPUs is being affected. So giving us as much information as possible. Now, if down the road our level 1 operator deems that this device is maybe in maintenance mode, or we want to acknowledge it, we can do it directly from here. It will clear out the alert and maybe clear out any incidents that would be created. But at the same time, we can scroll down and take a look at, has there been any flapping? Now, we all know that flapping in event storms do happen, and alerts are created around that. So we need to determine whether that is something that is in this particular case. And then in this case, we don't have any of that type of stuff going on. Now, one thing that a lot of operators want to understand is, yes, we have an impact. It's impacting the server, but how is it impacting, and what services are being impacted because of this some sort of degradation? So I can go to impacted services, and we can see that we have a bunch of services that are important to me that can be impacted. Severities can be major, minor, critical, as well as what type of application service this may be. So knowing that, hey, if we take down the server, if we restart it, if we rebounce it, if we re-image it, or whatever it is, obviously it's going to have some sort of impact. So let's make some sort of a better analogy, or not analogy, but more of a better decision of what we want to do with this server. So now let's take a look at and understand any secondary alerts. Because we are receiving alerts and events from various different sources, there are many that can be correlated together. We utilize our machine learning in various different ways to help us understand whether something is related in some way, whether something needs to be correlated. We use temporal-based machine learning, which is based on time. If we receive one alert close to a different alert related to the same CI, then we want to create some sort of correlation. Or we have automated correlations. Have we seen this before? Let's create that correlation. Is there a relationship within the Cmdb? So we have a Cmdb-based correlation. We will create that as well. So there are various different ways we handle our correlation capability. And in this case here, we do have some secondary alerts that we're seeing that we've created one alert around that. So let's go back to my details. And then over on your right-hand side, we have what we call Agent Assist. This allows the agent to quickly understand, okay, this is some additional help to help us understand, have we seen this before? So if I click on our high CPU on this Apache server, it's going to bring us some sort of knowledge to say, yeah, there's some sort of PR that has been created in the past. One of the remediation actions that has been taken before, based on a confidence level, is to restart the Apache service. All right, great. This is excellent information. This is great decisions to help me understand what is happening next, or what should happen next. But obviously, our level 1, level 2 operators aren't just going to go out and just restart some service. It just doesn't make sense. There's no governance behind it. There's no audit behind it, and so forth. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have those processes in place. Approval processes need to be there. We want to make sure we alert those folks or those business owners that something is happening or something needs to be done. So let's do just that. Let's go to my actions. I'm going to do a drop down, and then we have some remediation actions. I can either open up or launch some sort of another application, but I also want to create an incident. Now, this can be done automated. So if we ever see this issue before, I want to automate a creation of an incident, I can do that. But in this case here, I'm just going to do it from a manual side. Let's create an incident. So an incident is created. What we have is we have our new flow designer that has been embedded within our platform. This flow designer provides a view very similar to, if some of you folks are in tune with our orchestration capabilities, is what is happening within my view. So obviously we have this workflow to create a specific incident. It has been completed. So I go back to my agent workspace, and we have an incident that was created. I can dive into that task specifically, open up that incident record within my workspace, where I have I'm now focused around my ITSM world. All right, so understanding the state of my incident, the impact of my incident, the urgency, maybe you need to assign this, any work or that has been done, any notes that have been placed, but saying the agent intelligence is in place where it's going to help me understand what's going on. Now, if I'm level 1, level 2, and I'm looking at this data and information, maybe what I want to do is I want to provide some sort of content back to the business owners. So I can go in and I can say, hey, let's promote this incident to, and I'm a bad speller, but I think I'm doing okay, to major. And I'm going to post that. So now I've actually added some work content to that, where now I'm telling maybe the business owner of this particular incident to promote it to a major as opposed to maybe a minor, or maybe a critical alert, where I have a lot of information as well. So now I can go in and be able to take a look at maybe task SLAs that may be in place, any affected CIs. Obviously, there's only one CI, which is that web server that's in place. But then I can go back to my details, where now I've actually added some additional content to this, where I can go in and it has actually, if I wanted to add additional remediation in place, I can do just that. So normally what we would see here is we would say restart service, because our creation of that incident also created maybe a change request, as well as assigned somebody to the incident. But at the same time, we are looking at adding additional remediation options to that level 1 operator. One of those is to restart that service. But I'm not going to do that just here, because I want to go in and I want to do some additional investigation. So now I'm going to level 3 operator, where I'm going to diagnose exactly what's going on. So let's do just that. I'm going to go back to my dashboard, which we all love and want to, because we are all fond of colors and pictures, and I'm very one like that. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to say, well, one of my largest impacted service is my electronic messaging. So let me dive into my electronic messaging. So as the screen populates, it's going to open up with a service map. The service map is based on all the components associated with that electronic messaging service. So you can see here that based on an entry point, we are seeing a load balancer. We are seeing that it's attached to an Apache cluster, attached to maybe these specific trade servers, these other WAS servers that are clustered as well, attached to an Oracle backend. Maybe accessing some sort of WebLogic service, as well as other information down below. So this is giving me just a ton of information based on what is happening on the back end for that service. So we can also see here on your right-hand side the properties of anything that we do see. So if I select our Apache server, which is technically the one that we're having the issue with, the process ID that we're looking at, maybe the install directory of Apache, the config file that we're looking into for that Apache service, as well as the server itself, whether it's VM-based, whether it's cloud-based, whether it's on-prem based, or whatever it is. So there's just a ton of data to understand what is happening. So down below, we're looking at additional information. So obviously, we're looking at the alerts. So attached to this Apache service, we have the alerts associated with them as well. You can see this little A here. This little A here means it's an automated correlations, which is similar to the workspace that we drill down into for that alert. But now we're actually notified that this alert is something that has been correlated with others as well as the task that we assigned it to, because we created a task, right? And that task is that incident that was there. And so we have that in place also. One of the things that we are also showing is root cause CI. So in this case here, we don't have any root cause, but if we had some additional learning, it's going to learn that and give you a confidence score that this maybe the CI or the CPU issue is causing the major issue. But now we're also tying in changes as well. Because we have change processes in place and our change management system is obviously on the same platform, let's utilize change records for any CI within that's in place as well. And any changes that do happen in our environment, we want to know about it. So it's going to be based on any changes that are currently happening, any changes that has happened in the past, as well as any changes that are planned down the road that could impact the services. But in this case here, we see that the CI was modified in some way. All right, so the same web server that we're having the issue with has been modified. So let's open up what we call, I'm gonna move this out of the way. There you go. I'm gonna open up what I would say my timeline. And this timeline is actually a progressive time. So as time progresses, everything's gonna move down the line here, right? So it's a real-time movement of what is happening. It shows me how long my service has been in error state over the last hour, over the last day, over the last week, and so forth and so on. So over the last hour, obviously, you know, we did see something. If I hover over this little ball here at the very top, this little bubble, it indicates that a CI has changed in some way. Something has changed within that environment. So what I could do is I can bring this little 1 mark right here, and I'm gonna drag this over. I'm gonna put it just before that little tick somehow, if it stays. There you go. And I'm gonna bring number 2. I'm gonna bring it just after that little bubble, and I'm gonna hit compare. So what it's doing now, it's comparing the infrastructure before and after the incident had occurred. And we can see that Apache server was updated in some way. If I select that Apache server, the versioning of one of my, which is one of the attributes of that CI, was actually upgraded. It was upgraded from 2.7 to 2.29. And so now we can see that, hey, this is probably the cause of that issue. So let's jump back to my map. And I'm gonna get rid of that, and I'm gonna go back to now. So that brings my bubble back to the current state. All right. There's a couple things I can do from this view as well. I can also take a look at it from a metrics perspective. One of the newer things that we brought out within London is what we called our Insights Explorer. Now, keep in mind is that ServiceNow is not a monitoring solution whatsoever. Are we playing in that space? Yeah, we dabble into monitoring, but we are relying on those third-party technologies for that. But
hey, Ricardo?
Yes.
This is Phil. It looks like we lost your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go. Thank you.
Yep, I apologize. All right, so so we have what we call the Insights Explorer. So now what we're seeing here is we're seeing all of the CIs, or all the infrastructure components of that electronic messaging that I'm focusing in on. So what I can also do is I can go in and I can primarily grab maybe CPU, disk, and memory and overlay that to my environment. All right, so if I was technically monitoring this CI, we are gonna see up and down, hills and valleys of CPU, memory usage, and so forth. I can even overlay that with additional content of memory and CPU. For some odd reason, I'm not getting any of that data here, but I mean, you can imagine if we see hills and valleys of CPU memory going up and down as we progress throughout the day, so we can understand what's happening with that device. So what I can do at this point on is I'm going to go back to my map of my service, and I can do various different things. All right, I can also look at an impact tree of how the degradation is impacting my business services, showing me, you know, yes, we do have, you know, maybe our broker in the back end, as well as our web server, our database server in the back end that's being impacted in some way, but obviously it's impacting the overall our electronic messaging at any given time. So what we're also able to do is, from our discovery perspective, is take a look at, I'm going to dive into this, this connection, and I can show network path. So what this network path is going to point out is all of the environment in between each of the servers. So in this case here, between that Apache server and another web server, it's going to show me a quick trace route of what is there, as well as any alerts that have been created within any of the devices internally, whether it's a switch, whether it's a router, or whatever that is within that environment, to help us understand and diagnose what may be going on. In this case here, we have a SolarWinds alert. It is affecting a switch within my environment where we have this port not responding to traffic and so forth. Could this be a delay? Probably. Is it minor? You know, it may not be, but it's still something that maybe we could take a look at down the road. Right. Go back. All right. So from here on, what we could do is we can do a couple different things. Now, within my environment, I have the capability of doing some sort of remediation. Now, there are remediations that are in place, and a lot of technologies have remediations or some sort of corrective action. When I say corrective actions can be focused around let's restart a service, let's reprovision a server, and so forth. But our corrective actions, our remediations is focused around having something with a little bit more governance. Governance, making sure that we have a correct approval processes in place. You know, we don't want to go out and have some sort of CAB meeting to be able to solve a specific issue, but we want to be able to have governance behind that. Approval processes, as I mentioned before, make sure we have a change request in place, making sure that a message is sent out to the business owner indicating that this is going to happen, and then have them just simple click on something to say approve, and then we can move forward with that, and the workflow continues on. So I can go in, I can select this Apache server and show me my remediation options. Now, one of the things that always happens every single time I call service for information is they say attach a log. All right, so I mean, obviously, when I call Microsoft and they say yes, you know, send me the log, your system logs, and so forth. Hey, my remediation or one of my things I can do is I can attach a log to that incident so that my level 1, level 2 operators have that information. But in this case here, I'm just going to do a restart Apache service, and I'm going to hit run. So as that moves forward, it's going to open up one of my workflows, and my workflows is to stop and start that service. But more importantly, we have to determine what type of service it is right now. So it goes out, it does a verification on that change, on the state of that service. It also runs a script to determine the correct approval processes based on who the owner of the CI is and so forth. And when it's complete, it will be end. Go back to my service, jump back to my environment, which is my event management's dashboard, and everything goes back to green. All my alerts are cleared out. My incidents have been acknowledged and moved forward, and we're back up to the green. And when the light is green, the trap is clean, we all know. So, I mean, this is just a fantastic way where we not only are bringing in events together, but at the same time, we are providing machine learning for those event correlations, utilizing our event or agent workspace to help us understand what's happening within my environment, providing me enough knowledge and information to make the right decisions for those operators, and then still giving us the ability to drill down further into the details of my mission critical business services, so to get up and running very quickly. So now there's a lot of things that I ran through very, very quickly. There's a lot of details behind it. There's a lot of information that I can go into from a correlation perspective, from a machine learning, as well as from an agent workspace side of things. But keep in mind that everything within our platform from an operations side of things is rule-based. All right, so you know it is focused on rules. It is focused on data sources that we are bringing in. Our Cmdb runs on what we call the IRE, the Identification and Reconciliation Engine, so that we prioritize on data sources to make sure that we're populating the Cmdb with the right stuff. We all know that the Cmdb, it's all about junk in, junk out. It's just not some glorified data repository. There are relationships and dependencies in place, and we want to eliminate the amount of duplicates, as well as make sure we identify CIs correctly, so that we have a living and breathing environment that is very service aware. And that's what we drive our platform to be. diving in further into our incident problem change perspective and making sure that we tie in those relationships to specific incidents for those CIs and bring back real value back to the business. Okay. Now, is there any questions, or is there anything that you would like me to drill down further into or have another discussion topic around? We've got about 20 minutes left, so I want to make sure I take this time to entertain any questions.
Hey, Ricardo, this is Marcus. I was more or less asking for a probe for the audience, and maybe you can just kind of start this conversation. From a maturity model standpoint, you know, what is the prescription? I know I typically say, hey, you know, start with ITSM because it provides a framework and move down the operations management maturity roadmap. What have you seen, I guess, from your perspective, how this kind of gets incorporated into an environment, or maybe potentially how heavy is the lift into doing this for customers?
No, absolutely. And that's a fantastic and that's a fair question. A lot of our customers that we have, and we talked about this at the very beginning, ITSM, it really is the bread and butter for ServiceNow. And so, you know, we have a lot of customers that are running the incident problem change perspective today. Now, to get up and running with our ITOM technologies, within the platform, you know, we really need to take a step back and understand how are we really populating our Cmdb, and are we using our Cmdb effectively, whether that would be from an asset perspective or from a change perspective, incident perspective. You know, is this something that is manually done? And so, you know, that's one thing that, you know, we try to ask our customers is to say, you know, how are you populating your Cmdb today? Is it more of an API integration or what have you? Is it a manual spreadsheet import into that Cmdb? So I think the real driver and understanding of where we need to start with first is making sure that we are populating the Cmdb with the right stuff, accurately and quickly. And so, you know, we normally start off with, let's discover our environment, whether that will be on-prem or cloud environments. Let's tag on to vCenter and understand what we currently have, how things are changing, and be able to tag these individual service to business owners so that they have the understanding of what they currently have, right? And so once you have that foundation of what we have, is it accurate? Is it up to date? Is it correct? And then we move forward with events. Events is probably going to be the next step with discovery and events, where we start bringing in stuff that make our environment come alive. You know, I look at our maps as a skeleton, right? It's just it's bones, but everything within, you know, your body, your bones really comes alive with blood, muscles, and so forth, which are your events. And that's probably a crappy analogy, but you know, it is something that brings your body alive, is the stuff that attaches your bones together. And so the events really provide that content. It makes the CIs come alive with stuff and data and alerts and events and so forth. And so events can be the next best thing. Because our machine learning is embedded within the platform, it does that automatically. You have those auto correlations. You have the Cmdb auto correlations. You have rules that you can create based on auto correlations and so forth and so on. And so now you're starting to create those views. And then the next step after that is to make sure we have those maps in place. That way we can take our maps to the business. But our business is not going to understand web server 1, web server 2, environment number 3. They're going to understand SAP. They're going to understand our Citrix environment. They're going to understand our purchasing or our trade application. You know, those are the things that really resonate to our customers and to the business. And so we need to start now creating those views from that. Now, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We had a question come in relation to the dashboards. I know the simple answer is yes, we can provide multiple dashboards tailored to different groups. I don't know if you have a view that you can show with this persona, but can you give an example of maybe how someone could view a dashboard that might be pertinent to a particular group or an individual, or maybe even show a dashboard that's like drawn in on cases that one particular individual might want to view? Yeah,
absolutely. So yeah, these views here are definitely very out of the box. But it provides a lot of content, which is a great thing. So in this view here, it is based on level 1, level 2 operators, where you have an event management view of what is happening and how it's affecting a specific business service. Okay, great. So let's go in and take a look at it from another perspective. We can look at it from what we call an event overview. An event overview just provides additional content where we are using, hey, maybe more from a business perspective. This business perspective will be, yeah, these are the number of active alerts we currently have. These are the number of critical alerts that we currently have. Let me add some information to this data. Let me do this. I'm going to generate some additional alerts. Go back to my overview. And so my overview is obviously going to say, show me all the affected business services from a high level. Show me all the active alerts that we currently have from a minor, major, critical alerts. Show me any tasks that have been created, meaning incidents that have been created based on alerts. Any services that are affected by individual alerts, not by a group, but by individual alerts, and so forth. So let me update this view. Let me reload this screen. We should be able to get some content here. There you go. There you go. So we have a group, all majors. These are the number of all major alerts we're receiving. Now we're ordering them based on individual groups, as well as any active alerts based on different personas or different environments that we currently have. So I am at top, and obviously I'm administrator. But I can go in and say, well, maybe I'm just a CMDB owner, or maybe I'm just an event owner, and I'm only able to see this type of view. But I also can go in and take a look at it from various different ways as well. One of the different ones we can take a look at it from a persona side is maybe I'm the CMDB owner, and the CMDB owner is focused around the health of my CMDB. I don't have any rules set up in my environment, but the health of my CMDB is very, very important, because if we are populating our CMDB with stuff and we see that there are specific attributes that are required to make our CMDB complete, this is maybe the type of percentage we need for recommended things that need to be populated in order for it to be completed, or required fields that need to be completed. So we need to populate it with stuff so that we are complete. Compliances as well. Maybe we are SOX compliant, or maybe another type of compliant for auditing purposes. These are the fields that need to be in place in order for us to be compliant with something, as well as correctness. Do we have any duplicates? Do we have any orphaned CIs? Do we have any stale CIs? Stale CIs meaning that we see a CI out there, it doesn't have any relationships, it's just sitting there not doing a whole heck of a lot, or we haven't seen it over the X amount of days or time. Then we want to know about that right away, because obviously it's just hogging up space within our CMDB and making our CMDB incorrect. And so these are just this is just another view based on what different personas can see for our CMDB. And there are various different things we can go into as well. So one of the things that I'm trying to see if I can load more dashboards here. And a lot of these dashboards are custom built. One can be, major outage perspective. Let me see if I can find one here. Incident management, which some of you folks may be in tune with. There you go. So we have some dashboards, which is based around our performance analytics. Show me the number of incidents. In this case, my environment doesn't have any incidents, number of new incidents, number of resolved incidents, and so forth. New incidents from a priority perspective, new incidents as a whole. So these are just various different components of, again, very, very role-based. Okay.
Hey, Ricardo, good question came in. Basically, the CMDB and its importance to other modules and applications used by ServiceNow. What would you say are the biggest use cases for implementing a CMDB, and how that ties into the other applications that are provided by ServiceNow?
I think that the major importance is, I mean, as opposed to some sort of relational database, which just holds stuff in it for later usage, our CMDB is really focused around relationships and dependencies. So, you know, and relationship dependencies can focus around many different things. Within our CMDB, we have what we call CI classes. CI classes such as web server class or a Linux class or hardware class or business service classes, you know, because they have dependencies underneath for specific attributes as well. And so we utilize our relationships and dependencies to really provide that content that makes relationships to all the components of our platform. You know, one of the things that we pride on as ServiceNow is that we are on one platform. There is no integrations between our technologies. All right, we don't have to do some sort of API integrations to event management, to service mapping, to discovery, to incident management, and so forth. It's a native application. Every technology that we bring into the ServiceNow instance is native. All right, it is rebuilt. It is redeveloped to be native on the application. So as a plugin is enabled within the platform, it creates the necessary tables and information within the CMDB to make that seamless, and I hate the word integration, but that seamless connection between those devices together. All right. We have various tables that are utilized by those various technologies. Incident management, obviously, when you create an incident, it's tied into a CI. That CI is still tied into an event or an alert, tied into a business service. And so we utilize that CMDB for that. All right. So how important is the CMDB? It is crucial to making sure that all of the components within the ServiceNow platform are communicating together efficiently, effectively, and provides additional value to your environment.
And one thing I'll add as well is because of those foundational pieces are there, that's what helps us utilize machine learning and get proactive, right? So we can actually take a alert or event that could be triggered, and based on the history, predict when something might be potentially or have been experienced an outage, right? So I think, to Ricardo's point, that is a great use case for CMDB. And it facilitates all of the applications because we leverage the foundational technology based in the platform to essentially affect all the other applications that we provide in ServiceNow.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And then all the reports that you do see here. I mean, for instance, just this report alone, this little widget it's very simple to create. It's just a simple call to the CMDB for data. If the table's there, if the information is already, in place, let's bring that out and make that usable to the masses. All right. Additional questions? All right. So one of the things actually that I did want to show from the very beginning, my cursor isn't working very well. Hold on. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to show was the events. One of the things that's important about our event capability is, if you are used to looking at a view where you're seeing all the events, in this case here, I only have 16 events that are coming in. Now, an event could be anything. An event can be, a good thing or a bad thing, right? An event could be CPU is high, it could be CPU is running at, minimal capacity. It could be that the Coke machine is out of Coke. All right. Now, these are the things that are there that could be noise. And so we talked about before for event reduction in noise and so forth and so on. So this is one of the things that we really do well, honestly, is that reduction in noise within that environment. Our 1, 2, 3 operators within our environment obviously can't go through 10,000 events a day. And so we utilize event rules to help us satisfy that and reduce that to something a bit more manageable. And so we take these events, we run them through our rules engine to say, is this important? Is this something that is actionable? And then we create an alert against that. And so I can go in and take a look at it from an alert console perspective. The alerts show me the alerts that have been created. Anything that's automated or any correlations that we do see in place get lumped in as secondary alerts coming from whatever sources that they may be coming from. But at the same time, we're also and can take a look at it from a timeline perspective. So at this timeline, let me hit refresh this view, reload this view, and then we should be able to get some timing on this. And there's no timing here. So normally what we would see is we would see boxes in place that show us our correlated views. But at the same time, we are determining down the road, is there something that's going to happen? So we utilize our machine learning to indicate, is there something coming down the road as well? So we've seen CPU, we've seen memory, maybe it's at idle over the past 2 months or 3 months, but it's actually slowly creeping up. At this given time, maybe a month down the road or 2 days down the road, we're going to exceed a specific threshold, 80%. Let's do something with that. And so this is where we can do some high level understanding of there's something coming down the road. Let's make something happen. Let's create some sort of incident so that we can get ahead of the game. So there's a lot of proactiveness behind not only bringing in data and events in from other technologies, but our machine learning is focused around, hey, this has happened before. It is slowly creeping up. There's degradation that's starting to happen. Let's notify you of what's happening as well. All right. Important stuff.
Ricardo, this is Phil. I know you touched on it briefly on Marcus's original question, but maybe for the folks on the line, talk a little bit about, while the Cmdb, can be that engine that drives ServiceNow, it is not necessarily required for ServiceNow to be effective. You don't have to have a Cmdb for ServiceNow to still provide the effectiveness that we see in this demo, correct?
For IT operations, it is required. All right.
Okay.
We do have a lot of customers that run ITSM without our Cmdb. They rely on pulling information from third-party sources, which is by all means very effective and it works very well. But from the operations side, we do rely on the foundation, which is the Cmdb, which is those CIs, which are those classes. So, technically, yes, you cannot run event management, bring in events and tie in correlations between CIs without the Cmdb. You can't do a service map or discovery without populating a Cmdb or our Cmdb with data and information. All right. So that Cmdb is that foundation for the platform, for operations anyways.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any additional questions?
Folks, it's 11:55 out there. Do we have any questions at all? I know, again, we appreciate your time in this hour. We jammed a lot of information in there. We want to make sure that we get to any and all questions if you have them. So either type them in the chat window, jump in, and then we'll have Rico wrap up here.
All right. Well, again, thank you for everybody's time. If there's no other questions, again, our operations is really is focused around bringing in your existing technologies together, as it is. There's already, as we had mentioned before, ITSM is a foundation of our platform, and utilizing that same type of technologies and bringing in the IT operations side to bring in an AI ops capability within your environment, just as it's just such additional value when it comes down to level 1, level 2 agent intelligence, as well as bringing in best practices when it comes down to understanding what an alert is, how it's affecting the business, what type of remediations options we currently have, as well as how can we make this information better for us, for the business. So there's no additional questions. I appreciate everybody's time and have a good rest of the week.
Thank you, Ricardo. Again, we appreciate everyone's time. And as he mentioned, if there are no further questions, I think that's a wrap for today's webinar. Obviously, if things pop up after the webinar's over, feel free to email us or email your Advizex rep with a question, and we will be happy to get an answer back to you. If that's all, thank you.